Hey everyone, What If Fan here, bringing you another exciting part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. You can find the fanfic title and the original author's name on my Patreon page. Make sure to check it out and show them some love. If you enjoy the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. Alright, let's jump into it. Chapter 31, Third Year 01. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. Konoha awoke to the familiarity of a common day. Shopkeepers meticulously prepared their stores for another day of commerce, while families walked the streets, holding hands with their children, breathing in the fresh morning air. The village's soft buzz created a comforting backdrop. In this scene, an 8-year-old boy with uncomplicated blonde hair strolled calmly, his hand casually behind his head, almost as if he were trying to understand and absorb every detail of the village he now called home. Minato walked with an uncommon serenity for his age, reflecting on his life in that world. "It will be 2 years since I entered this world," Minato murmured to himself, his low voice almost getting lost in the village's murmur. "I'm still surprised by what it's like to live here, not just seeing everything behind a screen with an image or a manga page." His reflection had a mix of admiration and wonder for everything Konoha represented and everything he had experienced until then. As he walked, his blue eyes caught something that caught his attention. He stopped for a moment, his curiosity piqued. In front of him was a building that, although common at first glance, sparked a special memory in his mind. "Wait, isn't this the Ramen Ichiraku?" he asked himself, looking at the still-closed building, the place that would become one of the most iconic and beloved spots in the village. "Maybe in the next few years. It opens, I can't wait to try their food," Minato murmured, a playful smile on his lips as he thought about the future. The idea of tasting the ramen that almost every Naruto fan wanted to try was one of his priorities. Minato was immersed in his thoughts when a familiar voice pulled him out of his reflection. He turned to find Makoto. She was dressed practically for a day in the village, with small shorts that allowed freedom of movement, essential for a young ninja in training. A pouch was skillfully tied to her leg, perhaps containing important items or ninja tools. Her long-sleeved shirt was dark with the symbol of her clan on the back, reflecting her understated style. "Hey, what are you talking about?" Makoto asked with a light curiosity in her voice. Minato smiled slightly. "Hello, Makoto. I'm just thinking out loud, what are you doing here so early?" "I was walking to reflect a bit, I believe it's something you'd be doing right now as well." Makoto looked at him, her eyes reflecting an interest similar to his. "Yes, I was thinking about a few things before going to my training spot." Minato confirmed. "That's good since I was planning to visit you in your training area, let's go together then." Makoto spoke, opening a small smile. "Let's go then." Minato agreed, heading in the opposite direction of the village center. The two young people began to walk side by side towards the training site, the conversation flowing naturally between them. Arriving at the training site, a quiet and secluded area, Minato immediately headed to the weapon stock. He picked up some kunais to practice with Makoto. After a while, the 8-year-old boy thought of making a bold move, feeling the weight and balance of each one before choosing the ones he would use for training. Makoto watched, her expression a mix of anticipation and curiosity about what Minato planned with this. With the kunais in hand, Minato positioned himself. He closed his eyes for a moment, taking a deep breath. It was a practice to center himself, focus his mind, and his chakra. When he reopened his eyes, there was a clear determination in his gaze. With a chakra burst in his feet, he jumped high in the air, his figure outlined against the clear sky. At the apex of his jump, Minato began to throw the kunais with surgical precision. Each flew towards the targets, embedding itself in the center with precise impact. Makoto watched, impressed with the skill and control he demonstrated. Then came the most impressive move. Minato needed to hit a target hidden behind a tree. He threw two kunais, one to collide with the other at a calculated angle, redirecting its trajectory exactly as intended. The second kunai veered, spinning in the air and hitting almost the center of the hidden target. Makoto couldn't contain her admiration. Minato. That was amazing, she exclaimed, her voice mixing surprise and admiration. Minato, landing lightly on the ground, turned to her with a modest smile. You saw, but I still don't have 100% accuracy, he commented. It was an acknowledgement of his skills, but also an admission that there was always room for improvement. Even so, I've never seen anyone do something like that. It was incredible. You were so bad with kunais, but now you've even surpassed me. Her words were unusual, given her generally more reserved and indifferent nature. Thanks, I guess. He murmured, thoughts of Itachi, his future son, and his perfect kunai skills passing through his mind. Decided to continue his training, Minato then created some shadow clones. One was assigned to practice chakra refinement and calligraphy. Another clone was sent to work in the grocery store. The original Minato, however, dedicated himself to training with Makoto, a moment they both valued. The training between them began with a sparring, a small fight to test their skills and reflexes. Makoto, specialized in small blades, had begun to swap her kunais for large needles, a choice reflecting her precision and unique style. In the end, Minato managed to take down Makoto, a maneuver that caught her by surprise and resulted in her defeat in the fight. Damn, I really can't beat you, Minato. She was panting. But you're getting stronger, there's no denying that. He looked at her, acknowledging her progress. Makoto looked at the ground, her fatigue mixed with an emotional weight. I know, but it's still not enough. My father has been putting pressure on me lately. Her voice was low, almost as if she was admitting a weakness she rarely showed. Minato, surprised and concerned. Why is that? You're only going to be 8 years old. To him, childhood should be a time of learning and growth, not of overwhelming expectations. Makoto sighed, I know, but with Akame releasing the Sharingan at just 6 years old, everyone thinks that the patriarch's daughter is a failure. This reflects how my father is seen. Her confession revealed how she was viewed even within one of the most powerful clans of Konoha. You're not a failure, Makoto. Everyone has their own time and way to grow. What Akame did doesn't define your abilities or your worth. His words were sincere. Makoto looked at Minato, a glimpse of gratitude in her eyes, but there was still a glint of disappointment. Minato, seeing that the girl was still not at ease. Let me tell you a secret about the Sharingan, Minato began. To unlock it, you need to have a powerful emotion. It's usually hatred. When something precious to you is lost, your love turns into hatred, and this triggers something in the brain, activating the Sharingan. What? How do you know these things? Makoto asked, alarmed as Minato was talking about things not even the Uchihas talked about and bringing it up in the middle of the conversation, making her skeptical of Minato's words. Don't ask me how I know these things, just trust me. Minato spoke and continued. But to activate the Sharingan, you don't necessarily need to suffer. Makoto, knowing that to activate the power of your lineage now, the key to unlocking the Sharingan isn't just in pain or loss, but in any intense emotion that shakes your being. It can be hatred, yes, but it can also be a deep love, an unwavering determination, or even a burning desire to protect someone. Makoto, still a bit skeptical but clearly interested, leaned forward. So, you're saying there's a way? Exactly, Minato nodded. See, the Uchihas are known for their intense passions. This doesn't mean you need to lose yourself in darkness to awaken your power. Instead, you can channel a powerful and positive emotion. Think of something or someone you desperately want to protect, or a goal you want to achieve more than anything in the world. That intense emotion, when focused, can be the key to unlocking your Sharingan. Makoto pondered Minato's words, her mind buzzing with the possibilities. But how do I do this in practice? Practice concentration and meditation. I would initially recommend putting you in a genjutsu, but you will have to suffer for that, Minato suggested. Try focusing on a memory or goal that evokes an intense emotion in you. Train your mind to cling to that emotion and channel it. With time and practice, this intense emotional state can help trigger the activation of the Sharingan. Makoto nodded, a mix of determination and hope in her eyes. I'll try, she said, but, Minato, how do you know so much about this? Minato just smiled mysteriously. Let's just say I've done a lot of research. And Makoto, remember, the path to activating the Sharingan is as unique as the person who possesses it. Your journey will be only yours. With that, both went back to training for the rest of the morning before Makoto returned to the clan and Minato stayed to practice more. Chapter 32, Third Year 02. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. After the intense training and conversation with Minato, Makoto bid farewell and began walking back to the Uchiha clan complex, located in the heart of Konoha. The complex was a vast area that served as home for all clan members, as the Uchihas at this time were known for their importance and influence in the village. As she approached, the traditional characteristics of Uchiha architecture became evident. Large wooden gates with the clan's symbol marked the entrance, and inside, the buildings were arranged in a way that reflected both the strength and elegance of the clan. The complex was always bustling, with clan members coming and going, training or simply taking care of their daily lives. Children walked and played in the Uchiha style, while the elders conversed or observed, maintaining order and tradition. As she walked, Makoto felt the gazes of some clan members on her. There was a mix of expectation and judgment in those looks, a constant reminder of the pressure she faced as the daughter of the patriarch. Yet, she walked with her head held high, determined not to let these expectations define who she was or what she could become. As she neared her home, she knew she would face more training, more expectations, and perhaps even some reprimands for not living up to the achievements of other clan members. However, the conversation with Minato and the training they shared had given her a new perspective and a renewed sense of determination. Upon entering her home within the Uchiha complex, Makoto was immediately greeted by the imposing presence of her father. He stood erect, his posture and serious gaze reflecting the authority and discipline inherent to a clan leader. His eyes met hers as soon as she entered. "Where have you been this morning, Makoto?" His voice was firm. This was Mazu Uchiha, Ose, the clan leader at this time, and Makoto bore many of his features. Makoto maintained her composure, knowing honesty was the best approach with her father. "I was training, father," she began, her voice calm and confident. "I went to practice and reflect a bit on my own and then met a friend." "A friend?" he asked, a slight suspicion in his tone. Would this friend be that Minato Namikaze? The mention of Minato's name made Makoto hesitate for a brief moment. However, she nodded, confirming his suspicions. "Yes, father. Minato has been helping me with training. He's a good friend and a great training partner." Makoto's father's gaze intensified. The top rookie of his generation, not even the child Akane can beat him with the activated Sharingan. He reflected and then turned back to Makoto. "Do you know anything about his strange prediction abilities?" he asked seriously. "No, father, I don't know how Minato can do that," she murmured. Her father nodded after a while and spoke, "I won't deprive you of knowing an orphan, but make sure you are learning the right skills and maintaining focus on the traditions and techniques of our clan, Makoto. Friendships are valuable, but they should not divert you from your path." Makoto nodded in understanding and respect. "I understand, father. I promise to maintain the balance and honor our clan in everything I do." Makoto's father gave a subtle nod, a gesture of approval mixed with the constant vigilance he maintained over his daughter and her future. "Now go get ready, just because you trained with your friend doesn't mean you won't go through clan training this afternoon," he said and turned to leave. Makoto nodded, going to her room before grabbing something to eat prior to the training led by her father. Makoto began her daily training routine at the Uchiha clan complex. The place was filled with young and old practicing, each absorbed in their own journey to perfect their skills. She found a quiet space where she could concentrate without interruptions and started her usual exercises, moving with precision and focus. As she practiced, Minato's words echoed in her mind. He had spoken about activating the Sharingan through intense emotions, a method that differed from the traditional and sometimes painful approaches she knew. Makoto felt a mix of curiosity and skepticism about these claims. How could Minato, someone from outside the clan, know so much about the Sharingan, a secret so closely guarded by the Uchiha? She closed her eyes for a moment, trying to connect with the deep emotions Minato mentioned. She thought about the challenges she faced, the pressure of being the patriarch's daughter, and the expectations that came with her surname. Makoto tried to channel all these emotions, focusing on something that truly mattered to her, something that would ignite a burning passion within her being. The practice continued, and Makoto moved with renewed determination, each strike and movement imbued with a deeper purpose. She wasn't just training to improve her physical skills, she was trying to awaken something within herself, something she believed to be the key to her evolution as a ninja and as an Uchiha. As the training progressed, Makoto allowed herself to feel a full range of emotions, from frustration and the desire to prove her worth to the love and dedication she felt for her clan and family. She knew that activating the Sharingan wouldn't be an easy task, and it might not happen immediately, but she was determined to explore this new perspective, questioning the limits of what she knew and seeking to grow beyond them. Makoto finished her training with a sense of accomplishment mixed with restlessness. Minato's words had planted a seed of curiosity and challenge within her, and she was ready to pursue this path, no matter how uncertain or difficult it might be. Makoto stopped training and sat down under a secluded tree. She closed her eyes and began to meditate, knowing she needed to find a focus, something that would evoke a strong enough emotional response to potentially trigger the awakening of her Sharingan. She scoured her memories and feelings, searching for that trigger. Her thoughts wandered to a certain blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy, Minato. Makoto remembered how she had met him and how he became increasingly strong and a little distant from her, but he always had his encouraging smile, and how he believed in her more than anyone else. She thought about his determination, his strength, and how he faced his own challenges with courage, despite his more humble origins. A wave of emotions flooded her: admiration, gratitude, perhaps even something deeper. As these feelings grew within her, Makoto felt something shift. Her body reacted instinctively, and she focused all her attention on that whirlwind of emotions. She wanted to protect that bond, wanted to live up to Minato's expectations, wanted to be strong. It was a mix of love, respect, and a burning desire not to be left behind. Suddenly, a sharp and powerful sensation coursed through her eyes. Makoto opened them slowly, and the world around her seemed different. Colors and movements were sharper, and she could feel a new depth in her perception. She stood up and ran to a lake near the training area without looking at anyone, running with anxiety. As she approached the water, reflected in it were two intense red eyes, with a single tomo in each. The Sharingan was finally activated. Makoto was agape, surprised and thrilled with her success. She had managed it, and the thought of Minato, the boy with blonde hair and blue eyes, had been the key to unlocking her latent power. With the Sharingan active, Makoto felt a new wave of determination. She had finally awakened the Sharingan just a few hours after talking to Minato, something no one would believe, but she was the real proof that it happened. As Makoto moved away from the lake, where the reflection of her newly activated Sharingan eyes still shimmered on the water's surface, she felt a tumultuous mix of emotions. There was a sense of triumph and revelation pulsing through her, an energy that felt both new and ancient at the same time. It was the power of her clan, finally awakened within her, all thanks to a conversation with Minato. "This is incredible," she whispered to herself, her voice laden with admiration and a hint of incredulity. Minato was really right about the Sharingan. The words he shared, the ideas he proposed about activating the Sharingan through intense emotions, had proven true in a way she never expected. However, with this realization, came a sharp concern. If Minato's knowledge about the Sharingan became known, it could bring unwanted trouble for him, especially considering the secret and sacred nature of this information within the Uchiha clan. "But I mustn't tell anyone about what he told me," she decided firmly. "It could be dangerous for him, so I'll keep it as my own secret." She knew that protecting Minato was as important as honoring her own clan. And then, a gentle warmth emerged in her chest, a feeling of gratitude and affection that she rarely allowed to blossom so freely. She placed a hand over her heart, feeling the steady beat and the warmth of the emotions growing within her. "But I'm so glad to know him." She couldn't deny the impact that Minato had on her life. Somehow, he had become an important part of her journey, not just as a training partner but as someone who challenged her to see the world, and herself, in a different way. The emotions she felt about Minato were complex and deep, blooming intensely within her, like a carefully guarded flame that had been fueled by words of encouragement and acts of friendship. Chapter 33, Third Year 03. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. Dawn bathed Konoha in its gentle light, heralding the start of a new academic year at the Ninja Academy. Minato, now entering his third year, was already accustomed to the feelings of the start of the school year. He had spent the holidays dedicating himself to rigorous training and in-depth studies, with a few casual meetings among his friends, even though Makoto had not appeared anymore after that conversation about the Sharingan he had with her. But he hoped to see her as he walked towards the academy. Other than that, Minato continued walking and mentally reviewing his goals for the year. He wanted to refine his techniques, learn all the basic jutsus, and continue to strengthen his body and mind. His third year in this world promised to be more demanding than the others. As he approached the academy, the familiar wooden and stone structure rose before him, the fire symbol stamped on the gate in kanji. Students of all ages were already there, all gathered in a whirlwind of activity and noise. Minato entered the third-year classroom, his eyes sweeping the space for familiar faces. Soon, his gaze found Makoto arguing with Tsuna about something. He walked to his usual place. As Minato got closer, the discussion between Makoto and Tsuna became clearer. The two were engaged in a heated debate, while many students looked on with interest, already accustomed to the fierce competition between the two 8-year-old girls. Tsuna, with a defiant posture, taunted Makoto, her senju spirit evident in every word. "What do you think, Uchiha? I'm going to beat you badly this year." Makoto responded with a sharp look, the typical serenity of the Uchiha present even amid the provocation. "Tisk, senju, you're always such a wild one." The response made Tsuna frown, her fighting spirit more ignited than ever. "What did you say? Want to get beaten up?" She stepped forward, the challenge clear in her tone. Makoto sighed lightly, as if Tsuna's bravado was something she had come to expect. "Please, Tsuna, you know it's not a matter of wanting. It's a matter of can. And we all know that, when it comes to technique and control, the Uchiha have the edge." Tsuna laughed, crossing her arms. "Oh, yes, the famous eyes of the Uchiha. But don't forget, Makoto, the strength and stamina of the Senju are not something to be underestimated. This year, I'll show you the true power of our clan." Makoto kept her gaze fixed on Tsuna, the challenge and confidence clearly etched on her face. "I'm looking forward to it, Tsuna. You'll be surprised how much I've evolved. Prepare to cry with your defeat." Her words were firm, but the small smile playing on her lips softened the threat, turning it into a friendly promise of competition. "I see you guys are already excited." The moment Minato intervened, both turned towards him. "Minato, you finally showed up." Tsuna greeted him with a broad smile, her usual vibrant energy making her greeting warm and welcoming. Makoto, on the other hand, seemed momentarily taken aback. As soon as she saw him, a slight blush tinted her cheeks, and she averted her gaze, murmuring a shy, "Minato." It was a subtle reaction, and neither of the other two noticed. Minato continued his way and sat next to them. He asked a basic question. "Ready to start the year?" He maintained a cheerful smile for both of them on each side. "Of course." Makoto replied, still avoiding direct eye contact with Minato, her voice calm and somewhat distant. "Let's rock it." Tsuna responded with her usual enthusiasm, her contagious energy filling the space around her. While Minato and Tsuna continued to chat, Makoto remained a bit more reserved, participating when necessary but clearly lost in her own thoughts, somewhat avoiding Minato. The conversation was interrupted by the start of the class, with the arrival of a familiar teacher. "Hello third-year students, we're together once again," Maki Fuma announced, entering the room with an energetic vibe, surprising all the students. "Did we get a new teacher again?" asked a student, their curiosity echoing the sentiment of the class. "Yes, I'm back with you this year," Fuma responded with a small smile, clarifying the situation and the reason for the change. Professor Aburame has been promoted to Jonin, no longer needing to teach and serving Konoha elsewhere with his abilities. "Amazing! Aburame-sensei became a Jonin." The room filled with murmurs about the promotion of the former teacher. Many liked him last year, and Minato was one, as nobody helped Minato more than Aburame-sensei with the beginner's book for Fuinjutsu. But attention quickly turned to Fuma as he continued. "Anyway, let's start the class. As I'm already familiar with everyone, let's continue what we're going to learn." With that, the class officially began, all eyes turned to the teacher. Inoichi, always curious and eager, raised a question that was on many minds. Are we really going to finally learn jutsus this year? His voice was full of anticipation. Fuma smiled, aware of the students' anticipation. Yes, we will learn the basics this year. You're classified as an elite class, which means that in addition to higher quality lessons, greater results than other classes are also expected from you, so I want you to strive for that. You need to learn the 3 basic techniques by the end of the year. In the coming years, with the elite program, you'll learn basic elemental jutsus with a jonin a few days a week. The announcement triggered a wave of excitement. Ha 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 ha. We're going to learn jutsus, exclaimed a student, his joy reflecting the collective feeling. This is so cool, said another, almost jumping out of his chair with excitement. I was classified as a fire element, I can't wait to spit fire, commented a third student, imagining their future abilities. I was with an affinity for water, I can't wait to launch amazing jutsus, another shared, their eyes sparkling with possibilities. The revelation that they would learn elemental jutsus still in the academy left Minato genuinely surprised. Incredible, we're going to learn elemental jutsus in the academy? He knew this wasn't common, in fact, he never expected something like this, even though he was surprised by the affinity test in the first year. Minato was still recalling that, in the original Naruto work, almost no genin was taught outside their clan. Konoha's academy was evidently taking a new direction with this class. Suna, always well informed, confirmed his suspicions. Yes, my mom said that this is usually not taught by the academy, you really only practice when you're a chunin or don't have a clan behind you. But our class is part of a special program from the village. With our results over the last 2 years, the village's higher-ups decided to put us with new jutsus beyond the basic ones to test if the village can create a stronger force. Makoto, curious, questioned Suna about how she knew so many details. How do you know all this? Suna replied as if it were obvious, my mother is a student of the Hokage. The third Hokage personally asked her opinion about the program, and many parents were called in for this. Your father must have been involved as well, since he's the patriarch of your clan. Makoto was a little surprised and perhaps disappointed that her own father hadn't discussed these changes with her. I see. He didn't tell me about these things, she murmured. Anyway, isn't this a great opportunity for all of us? We're going to learn elemental jutsus. He was particularly excited, thinking about exploring his affinities with wind, lightning, and fire elements. Even though we learn some in our clans, it's good to practice in the academy. My father says that the earlier we practice, the greater our chakra reserves will develop. Makoto spoke. The Uchiha is right, I personally haven't started practicing elemental jutsus yet to focus on chakra refinement and control with my mother, but next year will be a good opportunity to start. Suna spoke and turned back to look at her classmates. What are your affinities? Mine are earth and water, I plan to focus on water initially. Fire, like any Uchiha. Makoto spoke. Wind, fire, lightning, and yang. I want to develop yang and lightning. Minato responded, leaving the girls shocked. Wait, now that I remember, you became famous for having 3 affinities, but yang too? Suna expressed. 4 affinities? I knew you were special, Minato, but that's amazing. Makoto looked at Minato with admiration. I became famous? Yes, I didn't do the test with a special affinity paper, but I know I have an advanced affinity in yang, it's by far my main affinity. Minato spoke calmly, even though he had never developed his fruit, he felt that his power was there, dormant. I hope you master them all. Makoto spoke surprisingly in a supportive tone for Minato. I hope so too, but I won't be left behind. Suna spoke. As the day progressed, Professor Fuma started the class with the basic concepts for the year, followed by a practical lesson. Minato, although physically present, had his mind divided. He had created 4 clones that were training in his personal training space, along with Suna's clones. The capacity had evolved to the point where Minato could create 5 clones, only surpassed by the 6 that Suna could create, yet he and the girl used their clones to multiply their opportunities for training and learning. Chapter 34, 3rd Year 04. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. After the first day of class, the following months of the third year at the Konoha Ninja Academy passed like a blur for Minato. Each day was an opportunity to hone his skills, and he dived into his training with tireless dedication. The focus of the third year was firmly established on chakra control exercises, with exercises like sticking a leaf to the forehead and even applying chakra to ink for common seals with Fuinjutsu. Under the attentive guidance of Professor Fuma and with the constant motivation from his friends Makoto and Tsuna, Minato spent hours practicing refining his chakra. Half a year since the academy started, and Minato continued the usual routine. Makoto was more distant this year than usual, saying she was training new skills that she had awakened and would focus on that until she was accustomed. Tsuna also spent more time studying medicine with her mother along with chakra control, but occasionally sent a clone to train with Minato in the usual spot. Minato noted even more improvement in his control. His calligraphy was getting better each day, and he could now execute 6 shadow clones with the whole day activated and up to 20 clones for 1 hour activated. It was after all these months with the professor focusing on training the students' refinement and chakra control that the awaited day began. Some students had already mastered these techniques after learning them from their clan, but the majority had never trained them until then. One morning at the start of the second half of the third year, Professor Fuma began the class on the transformation jutsu. This jutsu, he began, is fundamental for deceiving the enemy and for espionage. With it, you can transform into anything, from another person to an object. He demonstrated by quickly transforming into a colleague and then into a table similar to his, placed side by side with the object. Some students watched fascinated, eager to try. The professor explained the importance of observing the transformation target in detail, emphasizing precision in every detail, from the color of the eyes to the texture of the skin as well as characteristics of non-living objects. After going through the fundamentals of the technique and hand seals, Minato and others practiced, making mistakes and adjusting, until they managed convincing transformations of each other. When Professor Fuma introduced the substitution jutsu, the room was filled with cushions and wooden logs. This jutsu, he explained, is about perception and speed. You must be quick enough to replace yourself with an object before being hit. He demonstrated, asking a student to attack him with kunais, who, in the blink of an eye, was replaced by a log. The students practiced in pairs, one attacking while the other tried to substitute in time. Minato found a rhythm, focusing on sensing the right moment to make the switch. With practice, he and his classmates began to execute the jutsu with more skill. In an afternoon, Professor Fuma gathered the class to teach the clone jutsu. This jutsu creates illusory copies of yourself, he explained. They're not physical, but can be used to confuse the enemy and create openings for attack. He created several clones of himself, making them move in sync. The students practiced, focusing on dividing their chakra and controlling multiple entities at the same time. Minato didn't find the jutsu challenging initially. He quickly mastered it, but as it was just a practical class, he didn't show off much. Naruto had immense difficulty performing this jutsu, when the multi-shadow clone jutsu was learned by him in a few hours. It all indicates that he, possessing a large amount of chakra for being in Uzumaki and Jinchuriki, had difficulty in its control. But here I am doing it easily. Of course, I can't even get close to the number of clones that Naruto could create, but this only reinforces that he just didn't have chakra control and nobody helped him with that. Something hard to believe that everyone was oblivious to Naruto's difficulty, only that no one wanted to help him. Minato reflected. With each new class practicing the basic jutsus, Professor Fuma offered tips, corrected postures, and encouraged the students to understand not just the movements but the logic and strategy behind each jutsu. Minato approached the training of each basic jutsu with tireless dedication and a sharp mind, always seeking to understand not only the execution but the essence and practical application of each technique. On the training field with the transformation jutsu practice, Minato began by carefully observing the world around him, memorizing details of people, animals, and objects. He practiced transforming into classmates with shadow clones, then into smaller items like stones and branches, and finally into more complex things, such as moving animals. With each transformation, he became faster and more precise, adjusting every detail until it was virtually indistinguishable from the original. When it came to the substitution jutsu, Minato understood that the key was anticipation and speed. He started practicing with slow attacks, gradually increasing the speed as his perception and reaction time improved. He also experimented with different objects for substitution, learning to choose the most suitable one for different situations. Over time, Minato's ability to perform the Kawarimi no Jutsu in a fraction of a few seconds became notable. The clone jutsu was particularly easy, and he didn't need to perform them much to fully master the technique, opting to continue using the shadow clones that were much better for training. His progress did not go unnoticed. Minato once again became someone to be followed by example, as he easily became the first to fully master the jutsu. Even among students who had already been trained by their parents and clans, Minato easily surpassed everyone. After 2 months of intense training in basic jutsus, Minato realized that he had mastered these techniques to the point where he no longer saw the need to focus exclusively on them. He decided, then, to direct his attention to more advanced and challenging areas, including mastering his fruit, which granted him unique abilities. On a particularly productive afternoon, Minato was training taijutsu with a clone. He had blindfolded his eyes to sharpen his other senses and make the training more challenging. The combat between him and the clone was frenetic and intense, each movement full of purpose and strength. It was during one of these rapid exchanges that something extraordinary happened. The clone landed a solid kick on Minato's shoulder. Instead of feeling the usual impact, Minato felt a strange sensation and saw, upon removing the blindfold, that the area hit was glowing intensely. His shoulder had turned into light, making it intangible and allowing the clone's strike to pass straight through. This. Finally, after almost 3 years. Minato couldn't help but exclaim, his voice full of excitement and disbelief. His fruit, the source of his unique power, had finally manifested in a way he had never experienced before. He laughed out loud, a laugh that echoed across the training field. Ha 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 ha. Am I the light man now? Finally, will I live up to my future nickname, Yellow Flash? He was excited about the possibilities, about fully mastering this ability and using it in ways no one had ever imagined. Wanting to test his newfound power further, Minato looked at the clone and ordered. Quick, punch me in the stomach. The clone, without hesitation, lunged forward and landed a strong punch on his abdomen. However, instead of the sensation of intangibility that he expected, Minato felt the complete blow, a sharp and sudden pain that made him kneel. Ah! That hurt, he complained, surprised and a bit disappointed. Well, it seems the fruit isn't under control yet. The clone murmured, observing Minato still recovering from the punch. Minato nodded, still feeling the pain from the punch. He knew that mastering the ability to become intangible wouldn't be an easy task and would require much more practice and understanding. But he also knew that he was on the right path and that every step forward, even those involving pain and surprises, brought him closer to becoming the ninja he aspired to be. With the initial experience of his transformation into light, an unwavering determination took over Minato. From that moment on, he dedicated himself even more fervently to his training, seeking to understand and control the extraordinary power that resided within him. Day after day, he challenged himself, pushing his limits and accepting pain as part of the process. With every new injury, every bruise or cut, he saw a sign of progress, a testament to his commitment. To others, Minato's new approach to training seemed almost masochistic. He returned from the training fields visibly more bruised than usual, with bruises and scratches marking his skin. The sight was enough to worry any friend, and both Makoto and Suna expressed their unease. They watched him with concerned glances, questioning him about his constant battered conditions. Minato, are you okay? This is looking extreme, Suna would say, a wrinkle of concern marking her forehead. Makoto, with a serious expression and a tone laden with care, would add, you don't need to push yourself so hard. What are you trying to achieve? Each time, Minato would just smile and reassure them, assuring them he was fine. I'm just training a lot lately, he would insist. It's necessary to master what I need to learn. Although his friends remained skeptical, they recognized the determination and passion that shone in Minato's eyes. Then, a month after the start of this intense journey, it happened. During a particularly long and exhausting training session, Minato felt something change. A wave of energy, more powerful and clear than ever before, flooded his body. He stopped, recognizing the sign of something significant happening. Opening his eyes, he looked at his arm and saw a sight that left him breathless. His arm was glowing intensely, bathed in an almost blinding light. He had transformed into pure light, a physical and visible manifestation of the fruit's power. The energy flowed through him, pulsating and alive, a sensation that was both strange and wonderfully familiar. Minato was stunned by the phenomenon unfolding before his eyes. His arm, now an entity of pure light, moved in harmony with his commands, a luminous and intangible extension of his own being. He lifted it, turning and flexing, amazed at the fluidity and grace with which the light followed each movement. There was greater control this time, a deeper connection between his will and the manifestation of his ability. With a mix of curiosity and daring, Minato began to experiment. He touched objects around him, fascinated by the strange sensation that coursed through his being. Where his light arm met matter, there was no resistance, just a smooth and ethereal passage. It was a disconcerting feeling, the absence of solidity, but also incredibly exciting. The possibilities that this power opened up were vast and varied, extending far beyond combat, although its application in battle was undoubtedly formidable. At that moment, the image of Kizaru, the admiral from One Piece known for his ability to transform and move at the speed of light, came to his mind. Minato imagined himself executing similar movements, gliding across the battlefield with unmatched speed and grace. The idea of emulating such feats, of becoming such an agile and powerful force, filled him with fervent excitement. He knew, however, that he had a long way to go. The initial manifestation of his power was just the beginning, the tip of the iceberg in an ocean of potential yet to be explored. Mastering this ability completely would require time, patience, and an unwavering will to overcome the inevitable challenges. With a new sense of purpose and possibility, Minato continued his training with renewed vigor. He told himself that each day, he would delve deeper into the reach and limits of his ability, testing and expanding the boundaries of what was possible. And with each advancement, he came closer to becoming the legend he was destined to be, the Yellow Flash of Konoha, a ninja whose speed and power would be celebrated for generations. As the light of dusk gave way to the mantle of night, Minato trained tirelessly, an illuminated figure moving with determination and hope. He was on the threshold of something grand, and nothing in the world could halt his advance. The journey would be long and full of challenges, but Minato was ready. And the future, a bright and swift future, was calling. Chapter 35, Third Year 05. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. In the training field, surrounded by the quiet of the morning, Minato was immersed in solitary and intense training. The light emitted by his arm illuminated the area around him, creating a spectacle of shadows and clarity that danced to the rhythm of his movements, even during the daylight. He was focused on a clear objective, maintaining the light state of his arm and trying to mold it, understanding the nuances and limits of this unique form. With the help of clones, Minato tested the intangibility of his arm. One clone punched while another threw kunais, each blow passing straight through his luminous form. He watched, fascinated and attentive, as his ability reacted under different angles and intensities. The feeling of becoming immune to physical attacks was both exciting and disorienting. If my body is immune to physical attacks, I won't be able to receive any more attacks, and that will be difficult to explain when someone from the higher-ups realizes this. Minato murmured to himself, his low voice lost in the morning breeze. He was fully aware of the implications of his abilities. Being immune to physical attacks was an incredible power, but it also brought with it a series of complications, especially in a world where beings with extraordinary abilities were often seen as threats or opportunities for study. Minato knew that he didn't want to become a subject of study, an experiment in the hands of others. He also didn't wish to be branded as a renegade, forced to flee from the village that he now considered his home and had sworn to protect when he decided to follow the shinobi path. These prospects led him to a clear conclusion: he needed to hide his ability to become intangible until he was in a position of sufficient strength and influence. For now, I will continue to hone my skills in secret, he thought, determined. When I have powerful allies and sufficient merits, then I can reveal my true power without consequences. With that thought in mind, Minato continued his training, each movement and experiment shaping his abilities. He knew that the path ahead would be filled with challenges and difficult decisions. After all, he wouldn't just be a ninja, he would be Minato, the future Yellow Flash of Konoha, and he was determined to carve his own path, illuminated by the light of his convictions and the brilliance of his power. Minato, with his arms still emitting a soft and continuous glow, decided to take his training a step further. Inspired by the abilities of characters he knew from his memories, he focused intensely, trying to feel and direct the energy flowing through him. Then, with iron determination, Minato attempted to take a step forward while maintaining his arm in the form of light. However, instead of the fluid and fast movement he expected, his body hesitated, faltering between physical and luminous forms. Minato tried again, this time attempting to run. He imagined his entire form becoming light, moving with the speed and grace that his power promised. However, the reality was much different. He became unbalanced, stumbling and almost falling. Each attempt to move as light resulted in a struggle, an uncomfortable disconnection between his mind, his body, and the energy he was trying to manipulate. Frustrated but not discouraged, Minato paused to reflect on the difficulties he was facing. He knew his goals were ambitious, perhaps even premature, considering his current level of understanding and control over his fruit. The transformation into light is very complex, challenging not just the laws of physics but also the very nature of my physical existence, Minato murmured, looking at his arm of light. I'm not there yet, he admitted to himself, taking a deep breath to calm down. But that doesn't mean it's impossible. It just means I need more practice, more understanding. The good thing about this is that I don't use chakra to maintain this form. It comes directly from my physical energy, and having a body with the potential of people from One Piece gives me a significant advantage in stamina compared to people with chakra bodies from this world, Minato reflected, as he had the advantage of using two energies. Unlike taijutsu specialists in this world, he could use physical energy to emit explosions and move at the speed of light with mastery of his power. Minato resumed his training, returning to more basic exercises of control and transformation, trying to master his power even if it takes years of training. During not just that day, he continued training his fruit every day. Unfortunately, he could only train with his original body with the Pika Pika no Mi, as no clone could use this power, but it doesn't mean he wouldn't train, putting clones to practice his calligraphy, chakra control, and even observation haki since his experience with the clones could contribute to the increase of his perception. Minato made the most of the day until it finally darkened. He had put a clone to the academy and one to work, so the clones dispersed. Minato returned to the orphanage. He greeted everyone and rested for the next day. When he returned to the training site and was about to enter his state of light, he felt a presence approaching. It was Tsuna. Her haki was sharper than before, taking a distance of 20 meters around her. If he had to classify the level of observation haki, he would say he has 10 levels, and currently, Minato is at level 2, which is a great achievement for an 8-year-old boy. Even in One Piece, he would be considered a great genius. Tsuna? Minato called out to the approaching girl. Damn it, Minato, I can't even scare you, you're a damn censor. She growled, seeing that Minato had easily discovered her. Yes, I'm a censor, Minato said, rolling his eyes. What else could he say? Minato, I could have talked to your clone, but you wouldn't know in time, so I sent this clone of mine to talk to you, she said. And what's so urgent that you needed to seek my original? Minato raised an eyebrow. Because I want to invite you to my house tonight, she said with a bright smile. Why so sudden? Minato was a little stunned by Tsuna's invitation. He had never been to her house, he never imagined her inviting him, especially on a night, for what seems like a dinner. Tsuna took a deep breath, clearly trying to gather courage. Well, my mother is home for a few days. She wants to meet my closest friends, and you're my closest friend. Well, so I wanted to invite you to dinner at the Senju residence tonight. It would be an honor for me if you came. Tsuna was blushing greatly and continued even redder. But remember, don't think this is a date or anything, just a dinner to meet my family. Minato was still surprised by the invitation but completely ignored the part about the date mentioned by Tsuna. Dinner with Tsuna's family, especially being the daughter of Tsunade and the great-granddaughter of Mito-sama. Tsunade was a living legend in Konoha, known for her phenomenal strength and unparalleled medical abilities, even at this time when she is still not considered a legendary sannin. And there was also the possibility of meeting Mito-sama, someone Minato imagined meeting only after Kushina's arrival. Well, this is quite sudden, but yes, I accept the invitation, Suna, Minato replied with a genuine smile. It would be a pleasure to dine with your family. Thank you for inviting me. Suna exhaled, relieved and happy. Great. It will be tonight. I'll wait for you at the entrance of the academy about 3 hours after the classes, and we'll go together, okay? Yes, let's meet at that time then, Minato agreed. Great, goodbye. Suna, still a bit red, dispersed her clone the next moment before Minato could react. Boof asterisk. She didn't even let me ask what kind of clothes I should wear. Minato murmured to the dissipating smoke. Chapter 36, Third Year 06. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 34. Minato continued training with his main body using the Pika Pika no Mi, but still without success in moving with the power of light. When he realized it, it was already time to leave the place to get ready for Tsuna's dinner. Returning to the orphanage, the boy informed Madame Garit that he would be dining at the Senju's house, which left her a bit surprised, but she didn't prevent him from going. Just don't come back too late, otherwise, I'll send a Chunin after you, she warned seriously. I'll be here before you know it, Minato agreed. He ended up wearing normal clothes. After all, he didn't have many clothes for special occasions. Even though he earned some money from his work at the warehouse, he still had expenses to train his Fuinjutsu. Wearing simple but suitable clothes for a social dinner, he left the orphanage as it began to darken, arriving in front of the academy, where he found Suna dressed up quite nicely for an 8-year-old girl. Hello, Minato. She said a bit shyly. Hi, Suna, Minato greeted. Shall we go? She said hastily, and Minato agreed. Suna guided the two through Konoha to the village center, where the Senju complex was located, as one of the main clans. Welcome to the Senju clan, you've never been here, have you? She asked with a smile, no longer so shy but excited. No, it's my first time coming here, Minato said, but not without being impressed with one of the richest places in the village, the residences where the first and second Hokages lived. Entering the complex, Minato noticed some activity in the place, but Suna pulled him straight to the main house. The place was imposing, with traditional architecture and a well-maintained garden that reflected the status and history of the family. Here we go. Suna grabbed Minato and pulled him inside quickly. We're here. Suna announced, removing her shoes at the door, and Minato did the same. Don't be noisy, Suna, Minato heard a voice coming from inside the place, imagining it was Suna's mother. Don't be like that, mother. Suna said with a smile as she approached the kitchen with Minato right behind. Minato entered the Senju residence, feeling a bit nervous but deeply honored to have been invited to dine with such a renowned family. The room where he was received was cozy, with a rich table prepared for dinner. As his eyes settled on the people around the table, he immediately recognized some important figures. Dam was there, Suna's father, whose kindness in the past had left a positive impression on Minato. Nawaki, her uncle, was also present. Minato remembered well their somewhat hostile first encounter when Nawaki threw 2 kunais in his direction, creating a tense situation. The 2 women at the table were unmistakable. Tsunade was setting plates on the table, and a lady in quite traditional clothing whom Minato immediately recognized by her red hair. Despite her old age, the color didn't seem to lose its luster with age. This was Mito Senju, from the Uzumaki clan. She had a kind and wise look, whose eyes reflected the wisdom of many years. As for Tsunade, Minato could not fail to know who she was. Already with her small mark on her forehead, Tsunade Senju had a fierce look and eyed Minato as if spotting prey. This is my family, Minato, Suna announced proudly as they looked at each other. This is Tsunade, my mother, Dam, my father, Nawaki, my uncle, and Mito, my great-grandmother. It's a great honor to be here. Thank you for having me in your home, Minato said, his voice carrying a mix of nervousness and respect. Tsunade, with her penetrating and fierce gaze, evaluated Minato. I've heard a lot about you, Minato. Suna often talks about your adventures, abilities, and your character. We are happy to have you with us tonight. I hope you're treating my daughter very well. Her final words carried a tone that could be interpreted as both advice and a veiled threat. Internally, Minato squirmed a bit at the insinuation, thinking, what kind of question is that? He knew Tsunade was an imposing figure with a fierce protective instinct, especially when it came to her daughter. Suna is a great friend, and I have the utmost respect for her achievements. Our friendship is based on mutual respect and support, Minato replied, hoping to alleviate any concerns Tsunade might have. That sounds like boyfriends. Nawaki murmured, causing Tsuna to blush. Don't say those things, she shouted at her teenage uncle. Mito, with a gentle smile and welcoming eyes, intervened to ease the atmosphere. We are happy to welcome you, Minato. I've also heard a lot about you. Come, young ones, sit at the table, Mito requested, and both Minato and Tsuna went to their places. Damn, with his easy smile and gentle manner, was one of the first to strike up a conversation with Minato after the initial tension subsided. Minato, Tsuna told us about your incredible abilities, Damn began, a glint of genuine interest in his eyes. It's always a pleasure to see talented young people growing in our village. You are the #1 rookie, aren't you? I am always looking to improve and learn more. Every day that a new chance arises to surpass my limits, I take it to improve, he replied politely. Nawaki, always analytical and perceptive, asked, and what is the famous #1 rookie of the elite class up to these days? Uncle, Suna murmured, not liking Nawaki's tone. Don't be like that, Suna. I'm just curious. Many talk about Minato Namikaze, but few really know about him, he said, looking at Minato. I train basic things, I'm learning simple Fuinjutsu seals, and I'm focused on physical training, Minato said. Physical training? Nawaki made a face. Don't talk like that. Minato has the best results in the academy. He can even use chakra to strengthen his body, Suna defended him before Minato could respond. Ho ho ho. It seems little Suna likes to defend her friend, Mito said, laughing, leaving Suna a bit red since she couldn't respond to her great-grandmother. Mito, who had been listening attentively until then, smiled at Minato with a warm and open expression. I've heard that you are a prodigy, perhaps the only one born in a generation. The village is indeed blessed with someone like you, but I'm surprised by your interest in Fuinjutsu. Suna mentioned that you're training. It's good to see someone young interested in the art of seals, you won't regret it in the future. Thank you. I also believe that. I have great expectations in that area, and I'm willing to work hard to reach them, Minato spoke with conviction. Tsunade, who had been observing the conversation, finally joined in. Well, if you keep working hard and maintain that attitude, I'm sure you will achieve what you desire. Just don't forget to take care of yourself in the process, she advised, a touch of softness in her voice, very different from the predator look from before. As everyone sat down for dinner, Minato found himself immersed in conversations about everything from ninja techniques to stories of the Senju clan. He listened intently, learning not just about Tsuna's family but also about the history of Konoha and the responsibilities and honors that came with being part of one of the founding clans. As the evening progressed, Minato felt a growing connection with everyone at the table. The initial nervousness gave way to a sense of belonging and friendship. Minato felt like he was being introduced into the Senju family that night. Tsuna was cheerful and Minato conversed a lot with each member there. I still remember when I threw 2 kunais at your boyfriend, Tsuna, Nawaki said with a smile in the midst of a conversation. The sentence made Tsuna instantly blush, her cheeks tinting red as she shot a reproachful look at Nawaki. Nawaki, don't be silly, he's just a very good friend and a training partner. The dinner continued, however, as the night advanced, Minato realized it was getting late. He remembered that Madame Garit might start worrying if he took too long to return. Despite enjoying every moment with the Senju family, he knew he needed to be responsible and consider the concerns of those who cared for him. I really appreciate the hospitality and wonderful company, Minato said, standing up from the table. But I think I need to leave now. Madame Garit might start to worry if I get back too late. Tsunade nodded with understanding. Of course, Minato. We can understand that. Feel free to visit us again whenever you want. Dam extended his hand for a firm shake. It was a pleasure to meet you, Minato. You are always welcome here. Suna smiled and accompanied him to the door. Thanks for coming, Minato. Let's talk at the academy tomorrow, okay? It's a pity, young man, I would have liked to show you some of my scrolls, as it's always good to guide the young, but we can leave that for another time. I hope to see you again here, Minato Namikaze, Mito said with a gentle smile. Minato smiled, thanking everyone again before leaving the Senju house and walking under Konoha's night sky. Minato quickly returned to the orphanage and found the woman waiting for him, warming his heart with the concern of the woman who not only took care of him but the entire orphanage. Chapter 37, Third Year 07. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 34. The next day, Suna brought a book on Fuinjutsu given by Mito-sama herself, which left Minato extremely surprised. This book was an intermediate guide on seals. He was excited to learn about these new seals and start applying them as soon as he was ready. The last months of the school year were of absolute dedication and commitment for Minato. Each day was a new opportunity to advance and refine his skills, and he committed to making the most of the remaining time before the end of classes. Training his fruit continued to be a challenge, but he kept it in mind every day. He made some significant breakthroughs, learning to better control the transformation into light. Now with a more advanced book from the Uzumaki clan, considered a treasure in Minato's opinion given by Mito, his interest in Fuinjutsu was fueled by valuable tips from Mito during the dinner at the Senju residence. Her wisdom and experience in seals and techniques were invaluable, and Minato absorbed all he could. He spent hours deciphering the complex seals and theories, practicing tirelessly to incorporate these seals even as a means of extra income. The continuous refinement of his chakra control allowed Minato to now produce up to 6 shadow clones. This advancement significantly increased his training and multitasking capabilities, allowing him to explore and practice multiple techniques simultaneously. Basic jutsus from the academy had been mastered by Minato months ago. Transformation, substitution, and clone jutsus were something he even had to set aside. As the last day of class approached, Minato looked back and saw how much he had changed and grown. He was no longer the same student who entered the academy. Now, he was equipped with vast knowledge, refined skills, and an unwavering determination to continue growing and becoming a ninja who would make a difference in Konoha and the ninja world. The last day of class at the Ninja Academy was dedicated to final tests, a crucial day that would determine each student's progress and proficiency in the knowledge and skills they had learned throughout the year. The morning began with written tests, where students were challenged with questions about ninja theory, mathematics, strategy, Konoha history, and theoretical knowledge of jutsus. Minato, with his sharp mind and memory, breezed through the questions, quickly finishing with a perfect score. In the afternoon, students gathered in the training field for practical evaluations, starting with basic jutsus. When it was Minato's turn, he positioned himself calmly in front of the class, his gaze focused and determined. First, he performed the clone jutsu, but instead of creating one or two, he surprised everyone by forming several clones simultaneously. The class and the teacher watched, astonished, as Minato's clones lined up perfectly beside him. Without wasting time, each clone, along with Minato, began to perform the transformation jutsu. In an instant, the field was filled with identical replicas of each of Minato's classmates, each transformation a perfect copy of the original. Murmurs of surprise and admiration ran through the class as they watched the impressive display. Finally, to demonstrate the substitution jutsu, Minato and his clones coordinated a movement where each one was attacked and replaced by a wooden log, all disappearing and reappearing in different locations of the field almost instantly with a quick execution of substitution. The execution was so fast and fluid that it left the class and even the teacher in awe. After the demonstration, the teacher approached Minato, a smile of approval on his face. "Incredible, Minato! Your ability to create and control so many clones, and still perform jutsus with each one of them, is a testament to your immense amount of chakra and refined control. You have not only mastered the basic jutsus but elevated them to a new level." Minato's classmates, still recovering from the initial shock, began to applaud in praise, recognizing the talent and effort he had demonstrated. Minato's performance not only secured him the top grade in the class but also set a new standard of excellence and dedication. The end of the day at the Ninja Academy was reserved for physical exams, a series of tests designed to assess each student's fitness, agility, and accuracy. Minato, already confident after his impressive demonstrations of basic jutsus, was ready to showcase his physical abilities. The first challenge was the usual obstacle course, an elaborate track with various physical challenges that tested speed, agility, and endurance. Minato positioned himself at the starting line, concentrating his chakra to strengthen his body. He knew that with the ability to control and direct his chakra with precision, he could enhance his movements and reactions with his powerful body. When the signal was given, Minato shot off. He navigated the course with impressive speed and grace, jumping over barriers, climbing walls, and traversing tricky stretches with notable efficiency. He crossed the finish line in first place, by a considerable margin from the second place, receiving applause and admiring looks from classmates and teachers. The next test was the kunai throwing accuracy. Targets were positioned at various distances, and each student had to demonstrate their skill in hitting them. Minato, with concentrated calm, picked up the kunais and began throwing them. One by one, each kunai found its target with impeccable precision. His movements were so precise and controlled that it seemed like he and the kunais were in perfect sync. In the end, he achieved a score of 100%, once again securing the first place tied with Makoto. Finally came the sparrings, where students had to demonstrate their combat skills by facing each other in controlled fights. Minato faced each opponent with a mix of refined technique, strategy, and an intuitive understanding of the opponent's movement and intention. Now able to use the basic jutsus, he used his clones to confuse and disorient, while calculating the exact moment to attack and defend. Each fight ended with Minato as the clear winner. After Minato's impressive demonstrations, it was time for Tsuna and Makoto to showcase their abilities in a scheduled sparring. The fight between the two friends was anticipated with great expectation, as both were known for their dedication and talent as rivals, each representing their own clan. As the fight began with both using the basic jutsus, something surprising happened. In the middle of the fight, while Tsuna was launching a series of attacks, Makoto closed her eyes for a brief moment. When she reopened them, instead of the usual dark eyes, two bright red eyes with a single tomo in each stared back at Tsuna and everyone present. The Sharingan, the legendary copy of the Uchiha clan, was active and glowing on her face. A murmur of surprise and admiration ran through the crowd of students and teachers, as at 8 years old, Makoto could be a prodigy, even surpassing Akane, as he had an advantage over Makoto thanks to his Sharingan, but now it seems not to be the case anymore. No one expected Makoto to be able to activate the Sharingan yet, and the revelation of her hidden power left everyone stunned. Tsuna, for a moment, was also surprised, but she soon resumed her combat stance, recognizing the additional challenge she now faced. With the Sharingan activated, Makoto could predict and react to Tsuna's movements with even greater accuracy. She dodged and counterattacked with surprising efficiency, using her enhanced perceptual abilities to gain an advantage. The fight continued intense and balanced, but now with Makoto demonstrating renewed confidence and skill. Finally, after a series of impressive exchanges, Makoto managed to overcome Tsuna, using a combination of jutsus and strategy enhanced by the Sharingan. When Tsuna was declared unable to continue, the fight ended, and Makoto was named the winner. As she caught her breath, Makoto looked at her classmates and teachers, her voice firm and full of determination. I spent the whole year training, striving not to fall behind Minato. I knew I needed to push myself harder, and today, I managed to show a part of the result of that effort. As the last day of the third year at the Konoha Ninja Academy came to an end, following the exams and final demonstrations, the students gathered for a closing ceremony. Professor Fuma, along with other instructors, shared words of encouragement and wisdom, acknowledging everyone's efforts and achievements during the year. Damn, you beat me this time, but I'll surpass that eye of yours soon, Uchiha. Tsuna declared at the end of the class. That was amazing, Makoto. Is that why you distanced yourself so much this year? You were training your Sharingan? Minato couldn't help but ask, curious. Yes, I needed to get used to it, so I trained in secret, even from my father, to improve chakra control to use the Sharingan without it draining too much of my chakra, she said with pride and then turned to Tsuna. You know you won't be able to beat me now, except the defeat, Senju, Makoto said with an arrogant smile. Damn it! I swear I'll kick your butt. Tsuna growled. After this exchange outside the academy, with the sunset tinting the sky with vibrant colors, Minato, Tsuna, and Makoto went their separate ways home. They promised to train during the holidays and make the fourth year much more productive for everyone. Chapter 38, Fourth Year 01. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 35. It was the 35th year since the foundation of Konoha, and this year would be marked by significant changes in the geopolitics of the great nations, but no one knew that at this moment. Meanwhile, Konoha was living in its peaceful atmosphere as the shadows of war quickly approached all corners of the continent. The citizens were going about their routines peacefully, while in a corner of the village, in a training area on this beautiful spring day, Minato and Suna were in one of the village's training fields, practicing intensely. They had become frequent partners, pushing each other to new heights and sharing both laughter and sweat. After a fight between the two, Suna prepared to leave. "I need to go home early today," she said. "We will have an important visit from the Uzumaki village. It seems someone special is coming to Konoha, and the Senju clan will have to receive them," she informed him. Minato, grabbing a towel to wipe off his sweat, looked at Suna, curious. "A visit from the Uzumakis? That sounds important." His mind began to work, connecting pieces from his memories. "Yes," Suna confirmed, collecting her training gear. "I don't have all the details, but my mother mentioned that it's someone who will play a significant role in Konoha. It must be Kushina, she's finally coming to the village." Knowing the future, he already guessed the reason for this visit. Since there's the fact that Mito Uzumaki, the current Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, was aging, he knew Kushina Uzumaki would be the next Jinchuriki to replace Mito. There are so many theories. There is one that Kushina was sent to Konoha to escape the war, but Uzumaki would only be attacked before the Third War in a time of peace, so it doesn't make sense here. Minato reasoned. "Understand. Anyway, I need to go," said Suna, beginning to move away. "Shall we train together again tomorrow?" "Of course," Minato replied with a nod. "I'll continue a little more here and then return to the orphanage." As Suna walked away, Minato resumed his training, but his mind was restless, thinking about the Uzumaki's visit. He positioned himself in the center of the field, closing his eyes for a moment to center and concentrate himself. Now was the time to dedicate himself entirely to training his fruit without Suna around. Minato began focusing intensely, channeling his physical energy and focusing on the unique sensation that came with activating his fruit. He clearly remembered the first time he transformed his arm into light and was trying to move at the speed of light. Initially, he tried to transform just a part of his body, his arm or leg, and move it at the desired speed. There were moments of success, where for a fraction of a second, he felt the dizzying acceleration and saw the world around him blurring in a tangle of colors and shapes. But these moments were fleeting and often followed by loss of control or disorientation. But Minato persisted, adjusting his technique and concentration with each attempt. He kept up this training until he began to really make a movement. With a glow his body shot forward, however, this lasted only a second before he fell unbalanced. First, he is not accustomed to this speed, even making him vomit in the first attempts. Second, he still does not have much control. This movement lasts only a second before he loses speed and starts to feel his body numb. When he finally stopped, the sky was already darkening, and Minato was covered in sweat, breathing heavily, but with a glow of achievement in his eyes. He had still made significant progress, although he knew there was still a long way to go. He finally stood up, stretching his tired muscles and preparing to return to the orphanage. As Minato stood up and prepared to leave the training field, a familiar sensation ran down his spine. It was a sensation he had learned to recognize immediately, the presence of someone watching. His observation haki, now more refined and potent, alerted him to a more powerful intruder nearby. Discreetly, he swept the area with his gaze, his posture seemingly relaxed, but his mind working quickly. He noticed a ninja whose presence was subtle but definitely there. Minato analyzed the situation cautiously. Since the end of the third year, he had noticed an increase in surveillance over him. What were once Chunins were now Jonin Umbu, elite ninjas spying on his training. My results in the academy surely attracted attention, Minato thought. Being the student with the most potential in a class that the village is investing in to be its biggest project is something that would make anyone look seriously, as he was the unmatched talent among his peers. Even with two Uchihas with Sharingan or Tsuna possessing immense chakra, he was at the forefront among all these children. I hope the third Hokage doesn't have that ability to spy at this time, otherwise it would be quite problematic, since I wouldn't be able to notice with haki, but limiting myself all the time with eyes on me would make me delay my training," he murmured. Aware of the Jonin Umbu's presence, Minato decided not to pay much attention and continued arranging his things, maintaining his usual routine. He knew that any excessive reaction could raise unnecessary suspicions. Instead, he opted to maintain the appearance of a talented, but ordinary, ninja student, conducting his training diligently and methodically. The Jonin Umbu, hidden in the shadows, watched every move of Minato. So far, all he had seen were shadow clone techniques, something that, while impressive for a boy of Minato's age, was not uncommon among skilled ninjas. The Umbu had no idea of Minato's true powers or his attempts to move at the speed of light. To him, Minato was just another promising youth of Konoha. After concluding his training, Minato returned to the orphanage, already planning how he could further utilize his time to enhance his skills. With an idea in mind, he created several clones to perform different tasks simultaneously. Some were responsible for practicing calligraphy, a crucial element for mastering more advanced Fuinjutsu techniques, while others worked on perfecting seals and studying the explosive seals of intermediate Fuinjutsu. Minato thought that if he mastered these techniques, he might start selling seals to ninja stores and perhaps leave his current job. As the clones worked through the night, Minato took the opportunity to sleep. It was the first time he would test this, leaving clones to train. The next morning, when Minato woke up, he was greeted by complaints from his own clones, expressing their tiredness and frustration. "Original. You're abusing us," said one of the clones, exasperated. Minato, surprised by the complaint, replied, "What? You're a clone." He raised his eyebrows, staring at the clone. Even knowing that the clones shared his memories and feelings, it was strange to be reprimanded by an extension of himself. The discussion among the clones was becoming increasingly heated and absurd, with each one trying to argue about their rights and status. Minato watched, somewhat astonished, as his own clones debated among themselves. "Even so, we have to have rights," insisted the clone labeled as Clone 3. "Clone 3 is right, we stayed up all night for you to just sleep." "We're tired," another clone added, supporting the claim. "Why am I Clone 3? I should be the one," the first clone complained, clearly dissatisfied with his arbitrary designation. "Because you're the weakest of us," retorted one of the other clones, further provoking the argument. "We're equal clones, what logic is this?" Clone 3 replied, frustrated. The bickering continued, with each clone presenting their arguments and grievances, creating a chaos of voices and complaints that echoed through the orphanage. Minato, initially surprised by the intensity of the discussion, quickly began to feel his patience wearing thin. "Can you stop?" Minato finally got irritated, his voice raised over the clamor. He made the hand seal to cancel the clones, a decisive and final gesture. One by one, the clones dissipated, leaving behind only a sense of relief and silence. This is better, Minato thought, shaking his head in disbelief at the surreal debate he had just witnessed. "Let's prepare to eat something. And continue training," he murmured to himself, deciding to go back inside the orphanage. Chapter 39, 4th Year 02. Third-person POV. Konoha, Year 35. Time passed, and the last few weeks had been lonely. Suna and Makoto, for their own reasons, had not been able to join Minato in the usual training. Despite this, he had not slowed down, continuing his rigorous practice alone, always seeking to improve his skills and knowledge. On this day, marked with the start of the 4th year, Minato felt a mix of excitement and curiosity about what the new school year would bring. He adjusted his equipment bag, ensuring he had everything he needed: kunais, scrolls, and of course, his intermediate Fuinjutsu book given by Mito-sama. Walking through the streets of Konoha towards the academy, Minato watched the village wake up. Merchants prepared their shops, shinobis ran past with missions for the day, and children, like him, headed for another day of learning. There was a palpable energy in the air, a sense of community and purpose that always filled him with pride for being part of this village. Upon arriving in the classroom, he looked around, searching for Suna and Makoto, hoping they would also be in their usual spot. His eyes found Makoto sitting alone at the usual table, while Suna was in another part of the room, isolated and seemingly absorbed in her own thoughts. Surprised and a bit confused by this change in the usual pattern, Minato approached Makoto, curious to understand what was happening. "Hi, Makoto," he greeted. "Why is Tsuna over there? It's not common to see you two separated, no matter how much you argue with each other." Makoto looked at him with a calm expression. "Hi, Minato," she replied. "Tsuna is a bit distant this year. She said she's going to sit with the new student living at her house." Minato arched an eyebrow, surprised by the news. A new student, so soon? Minato murmured, already understanding the situation. "Yes," Makoto confirmed. "It seems she came from another village and is now under the care of Tsuna's family. Tsuna mentioned that she is quite special and needs some time to adjust. That's why she wants to be there to support her." Minato nodded, understanding the situation. "I see. That's very kind of her. I hope we can all meet and train together soon." Makoto gave a slight smile. "Yes, that would be good. I think Tsuna really wants us all to get along." As the students settled into their places and the murmuring conversation decreased, the classroom door opened, announcing the arrival of Professor Fuma again. He entered the room with his usual air of calm authority, but today, there was something different. At his side, a new figure, a girl with bright red hair, entered the room timidly. "Silence, please," announced Professor Fuma, as everyone in the room directed their attention to him and the new student at his side. "Today, we're starting a new year and have a new student joining us. So I will start the class by introducing her to everyone. She comes from the Uzumaki village and will be with us from now on. Please, welcome Kushina Uzumaki." The mention of the name Uzumaki caused a buzz to run through the room. The Uzumakis were known to be a precious ally of the village. Everyone knew of their longevity, their sealing abilities, and, of course, their notable lineage, which was linked to the wife of Konoha's founder. Minato, upon hearing the name, immediately recognized the significance of the girl. Kushina Uzumaki, his likely future wife. Kushina, for her part, seemed a bit overwhelmed with all the attention turned towards her. Her bright red hair was a distinct mark, and her posture, though a bit shy, seemed to gain some courage. She waved timidly to the class, a slight blush on her cheeks. "Hi," she said with a voice that, despite being nervous, she shouted out strangely as she closed her eyes. "I'm happy to be here. I hope we can get along, Databane." "That's good, Kushina. Can you tell what your goals are to your classmates?" Professor Fuma continued speaking. Meanwhile, a growing murmur ran through the class. Her unique appearance, especially the vibrant red hair, drew looks and comments. The children, curious and some a bit cruel in their youth, began to whisper among themselves, the same way they did when they saw Minato in the first year. "Did you see her hair? It's so red," whispered a child, unable to hide their surprise. "Yes, I've never seen anything like it." "She's really weird," another agreed, looking at Kushina with a mix of curiosity and disdain. The words weird and different floated through the air, some said in jest, others with a hint of malice. It was the natural reaction of children facing something or someone that didn't fit into their usual norms. Minato, however, remained aloof from this wave of judgments and comments. He observed Kushina with a serene look, indifferent to the opinions of others. He knew, more than most, that appearance said little about a person's true character and potential. Besides, he was well aware of the esteem and respect that the Uzumaki lineage held and the notable abilities that Kushina might possess. As the murmurs and stares persisted, Kushina tried to maintain her composure, her face tinting a red that rivaled her hair. She was clearly aware of all the comments and judgments, and the tension grew within her with each whisper and muffled laugh. Finally, reaching her limit, Kushina stood up abruptly, her face now a mask of determination and indignation. "Enough," she shouted, her voice cutting through the room's noise like a blade. A surprised silence fell over the class, all eyes now fixed on her. With all eyes on her, Kushina took a deep breath, her posture firm and defiant. "I don't care what you think about my appearance or where I come from. I am Kushina Uzumaki, and I will become the first female Hokage of Konoha, Databane." Her declaration echoed through the room, silencing all the gossip about her appearance, a silence established in the next moment. Even the teacher was stunned by this. However, this silence was abruptly broken by an explosion of laughter and mockery from some of her classmates. Kushina's courage and determination, instead of inspiring respect, seemed to have become the target of ridicule. She, the Hokage? What a joke, a boy shouted, triggering more laughter. A weird girl like Hokage? It'll never happen, another child added, with a reckless cruelty so common in childhood. Did you hear her? What's with that databane? Another child laughed. What a weird girl, she should go back where she came from, another mocked. Why is she in the elite class? How can she be among us, a child complained. Humiliating phrases and sneers continued to be hurled towards Kushina, each trying to outdo the other in cruelty. She stood there, visibly shaken, her face a mix of shame and anger, the words cutting deeper than any weapon. Minato, who had been watching with a growing sense of disgust and anger, could no longer contain himself. The disrespect and cruelty of his classmates were intolerable. Just like him, Suna was also extremely irritated by how the students were treating Kushina, the girl she had met a few days ago. Her great-grandmother had asked her to personally take care of the girl, but when she was about to explode to make the other children respect Kushina. A boy with blonde hair stood up abruptly before her, his chair falling backward with a crash. He faced the class with a cold and controlled fury. Shut up, he shouted, his voice loaded with authority and indignation. A shocked silence fell over the room, all eyes now turned to him. How dare you laugh and mock someone's dreams or someone's appearance? Do you think that's funny? Do you think it's right to humiliate someone like that? His reprimand echoed through the room, and many of the students looked away, ashamed. Minato, usually calm and controlled, rarely showed such fury, and his discontent was a powerful indicator of how unacceptable he considered their behavior. He then turned to Kushina, his gaze softening. Don't listen to them, Kushina Uzumaki. Your dream is valuable and possible. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You need only have the strength and determination to make it a reality. As soon as Minato said these words, a new silence took over the atmosphere of the room. Makoto looked at Minato bewildered by her side, and even Suna looked at him the same way. Even Kushina, amidst these humiliations, was surprised by the boy defending her. Professor Fuma, who had also been stunned and let the situation get out of control, decided to intervene, quickly taking control of the situation. Enough! All of you, he announced, his firm and authoritative voice restoring order in the room. This kind of behavior is unacceptable. You must not treat a fellow Konoha classmate this way. Kushina, please sit next to Tsuna. Kushina, still shaken by the harsh words of her classmates but also touched by Minato's unexpected support, walked silently to the table where Tsuna was sitting. Tsuna, who had already known and talked with Kushina in the past few days, cast a welcoming and supportive glance at Kushina, moving her things aside to make space for the new student. As Kushina sat down, her gaze met Minato's. There was a mix of emotions in her eyes, surprise, gratitude, and perhaps a glimpse of admiration. She wasn't used to being the center of attention in Yuzushiogakure, so being the target of mockery for being different in a strange village was quite uncomfortable, but having someone so openly defend her was a new and impactful experience. She had no words, but her look conveyed a silent message of thanks. Minato, now a bit calmer but still irritated with his classmate's attitude, just nodded subtly in acknowledgement of Kushina's gaze. He hadn't defended Kushina seeking gratitude, he did it because it was the right thing to do. Chapter 40, 4th Year 03. Third Person POV. Konoha, Year 35. After restoring order in the room, Professor Fuma looked at his students with a serious yet understanding expression. Now that we're all attentive, let's focus on what really matters here. This year, the 4th year, will be a crucial period in your training as shinobis in the elite program. You will be introduced to elemental jutsus, a fundamental basis for any ninja now that you've mastered the basics last year. Unfortunately, some were unable to meet the expectations and left the class. The professor referred to a few empty chairs in the room, but they were very few. He walked to the board and drew symbols representing the 5 basic elements: fire, water, earth, air, and lightning. Each of you has a natural affinity with one of these elements. Discovering and honing that affinity will allow you to shape your chakra in specific ways, creating powerful and unique jutsus. The room's interest seemed renewed now. The previous incident temporarily forgotten as curiosity about the elemental jutsus took over. You will undergo tests to discover your elemental affinities again. Once identified, we will begin working on developing these skills. Remember, mastering an element not only expands your arsenal but also deepens your understanding of chakra and how to use it. Many students exchanged excited glances, while Minato observed with a thoughtful expression, pondering the possibilities that this new knowledge would bring. Kushina, now sitting next to Tsuna, was excited to learn jutsus too. She was a year younger than all the children here, but her large amount of chakra and her future as Jinchuriki made the village's high ranks introduce her into the program. Let's start today with a theoretical introduction, continued Professor Fuma. Fire jutsus are known for their offensive power and ability to cause great destruction. Water jutsus, in turn, are versatile and can be used for both attack and defense. Earth jutsus offer solidity and resistance, creating barriers and altering the terrain in your favor. Air jutsus are extremely rare, but some of you have an affinity. They are fast and unpredictable, and lightning jutsus are intensely powerful and fast, capable of paralyzing an enemy with their speed and having a penetrating and powerful attack power. The students listened attentively, some already imagining how they could use these jutsus in combat. Professor Fuma continued explaining the basic principles of each style and how they interrelate and oppose each other. As the class proceeded, detailing the intricate aspects of elemental jutsus, Minato couldn't help but notice Kushina's gaze occasionally landing on him. He tried to maintain his focus on the professor's explanation, but her gaze was unsettling, making him question what was going through the mind of the new student. Tsuna, sitting next to Kushina, noticed this exchange of glances and subtly nudged Minato, whispering something about the attention he was receiving, provoking a half-smile on his face. The morning advanced, and the introduction to elemental jutsus extended until noon, capturing the children's imagination with possibilities and promises of power. When the bell finally rang for the break, there was a flurry of activity, with the students spreading out to enjoy their free time. Minato, seeking a moment of tranquility, met with Makoto under one of the large trees in the academy courtyard. They talked quietly, discussing their expectations for the elemental jutsus, when Tsuna approached, bringing Kushina with her. Minato, Uchiha. Tsuna greeted, with an energy that seemed to try to dispel the tension of the previous incident. Senju, and the new student. The Uzumaki, Makoto responded, with a tone that carried a hint of arrogance. Don't mind her, she's always grumpy, Tsuna retorted, casting a playful look at Makoto before turning to Kushina. This is Makoto Uchiha. Kushina, whose face still carried the blush of the tumultuous morning, seemed a bit lost in the group dynamics, more focused on Minato than the discussion between Tsuna and Makoto. She watched him with a mix of curiosity and something more that she seemed unable to disguise. This is Minato Namikaze, the boy who defended you, Tsuna continued, trying to facilitate the interaction between them. Kushina, facing Minato directly now, seemed to struggle to find the right words. Then, with a sigh that carried a mix of nervousness and gratitude, she closed her eyes and burst out. Thank you for earlier, Databane. Kushina exclaimed, her voice laden with genuine emotion. Her expression, when she opened her eyes again, was one of relief, as if thanking Minato had been an important task she needed to complete. The group fell into a brief silence, with each processing the interaction differently. Minato, surprised by Kushina's sudden outburst, just nodded, a smile of understanding on his lips. Well, it was nothing. Minato replied, running his hand through his hair and scratching his head. He avoided looking directly at Kushina, but their eyes inevitably met. In that brief moment of eye contact, something inexplicable hung in the air between them. The awkward atmosphere did not go unnoticed by Tsuna and Makoto, who watched the exchange of glances with increasing surprise and confusion. Tsuna, who had known Minato for years, had never seen him interact in this way with someone. And Makoto, always so observant and reserved, felt an inexplicable twinge at seeing Minato looking at the new girl. Neither of them seemed able to break the silence, lost in their own thoughts and unrecognized emotions. Time seemed to have slowed down, and even the sounds of the courtyard full of playing children seemed distant and muffled. "Why are you two looking at each other like that?" Tsuna finally burst out, unable to contain her curiosity and discomfort with the situation. Her sharp voice broke the spell, making Minato and Kushina quickly avert their gaze, as if they had been caught in a forbidden act. Meanwhile, Makoto, with her usual self-control, tried to disguise her discomfort, but her face revealed a glimpse of incomprehension and, perhaps, slight irritation. Is Minato taking a liking to Kushina? Am I jealous? Suna wondered, alarmed at her own reaction. Am I jealous of the Uzumaki girl? Makoto questioned herself, feeling a strange and uncomfortable emotion bubbling inside her. Minato coughed lightly. He felt the weight of Suna and Makoto's gazes on him, which only increased his embarrassment. Hi, Kushina, I'm Minato Namikaze, he spoke, his voice soft, trying to convey a calm he didn't fully feel. A shy and somewhat uncertain smile formed on his lips as he extended his hand toward Kushina, an offer of friendship and perhaps a silent apology for the awkwardness of the moment. I'm Kushina Uzumaki, it's a pleasure, Kushina responded, her voice low and a bit hesitant. She extended her hand and shook Minato's, a simple gesture, but laden with meaning. Their fingers briefly touched, and both felt strange about it. Meanwhile, Suna and Makoto observed with mixed feelings. Suna, known for her expressiveness and impulsiveness, slightly furrowed her brow, her thoughts racing as she considered the situation. Makoto, on the other hand, maintained a more controlled posture, but her discomfort was evident in the stiffness of her shoulders and the way her eyes narrowed slightly. Feeling the need to interrupt what she perceived as a potentially awkward moment, Suna decided to change the focus of the conversation. So, Kushina, your Uzumaki family is quite well known, she began, her voice a little louder than necessary, trying to infuse a dose of normalcy into the conversation. They're famous for their sealing jutsus, right? It must be amazing to be part of such a respected lineage like my great-grandmother's. Kushina, a bit surprised by the sudden change of topic, released Minato's hand and turned to Tsuna, grateful for the opportunity to talk about something familiar and safe. Yes, the Uzumaki are known for that. I'm still learning, but I hope to one day be able to master those techniques as well from my clan. As the conversation about the Uzumaki lineage and their sealing techniques unfolded, the group gradually began to feel more at ease. Suna continued to encourage Kushina to open up to them, asking about the peculiarities of Kushina's homeland, Uzushiogakure. Is it true that Uzushiogakure has large spiral structures as its symbol? I read something about that once. Kushina, excited to share something about her homeland, nodded affirmatively. Yes, it's true. Our village is known for its large spiral-shaped buildings. They are said to represent the longevity and perseverance of the Uzumaki people, Databane. Her voice carried a tone of pride when talking about her village, and for a brief moment, the sadness and shyness seemed to disappear from her face. Makoto, usually more reserved, also got involved in the conversation, asking about the differences between the lifestyles of Konoha and Uzushiogakure. What's it like adapting here in Konoha? Are the traditions and lifestyle very different? Kushina shrugged, a bitter smile forming on her lips. It's different, for sure. Everything here is so new to me, and sometimes I feel out of place. But I'm trying to adapt. After all, it's an opportunity to grow and learn. Suna, your family, and even Mito-sama are helping me. Konoha has a lot to offer, Kushina. I'm sure you'll find your place here, Minato said, offering an encouraging smile. The bell for the end of the break rang at that moment, signaling that it was time to return to the classroom. The group stood up, gathering their belongings. Well, I guess it's time to go back, said Suna, stretching. Let's go, we have a lot to learn yet, especially about the elemental jutsus. They walked back to the classroom together, the conversation now shifting to expectations about the upcoming elemental affinity tests. Kushina, although still somewhat reserved, seemed more integrated into the group, sharing laughs and comments as they walked. The rest of the day at the academy was intensive and informative. Professor Fuma dedicated the first part of the afternoon to explaining the schedule and goals for the upcoming classes. He detailed the various types of jutsus that the students would learn, emphasizing the importance of understanding the fundamentals of chakra and how it is manipulated in different forms of jutsu. Mastering the elements is a crucial step to becoming a complete shinobi, he explained, going through each element with examples of notable jutsus associated with them. As the afternoon progressed, Professor Fuma moved from theory to practice. Now, let's test your chakra control, he announced. Having refined control is essential for performing jutsus effectively and accurately. One by one, the students were called to the front of the room to demonstrate their current chakra control abilities. Minato was calm, but Tsuna, Makoto, and Kushina watched their peers perform the task, each with their own anxiety and expectation. When it was their turn, they demonstrated their abilities with varying degrees of success. Minato, with his usual competence, showed impressive chakra control, earning a nod of approval from the professor. Tsuna and Makoto, each with their strengths, also made solid demonstrations. Kushina, nervous but determined, did the best she could, her chakra control still unstable but showing potential as she was the child with the largest amount of chakra now. As the sun began to set, the last activity of the day came to an end. Professor Fuma congratulated the class for their efforts and reminded them of the importance of regular practice. Chakra control is like a muscle, he said. The more you practice, the stronger it will become. Keep working hard. You've mastered the first techniques to advance to more advanced ones before we start utilizing jutsus. After that, Minato's group said their goodbyes and went their separate ways home, with only Tsuna and Kushina returning together. That wraps up this part of What If Transmigrated as Minato Namikaze. Thanks so much for listening. As always, new parts drop every 4 days, so be sure to stay tuned. Also check out my Patreon channel for early releases of all the series, where you can find all the series released one day ahead of YouTube. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, subscribe, share it with your friends, and please consider supporting the original author as well. See you in the next one.